with sales coaching, we need a formal approach. At least we need to have a coaching process. We need to develop sales managers on how to coach. Let's be honest, we're all not born as natural coaches.
Hey y'all, welcome to Selling with Social, the podcast that helps marketers increase marketing qualified leads, sales reps to shatter sales results, and sales leaders to grow as leaders. Each show, we interview sales, marketing, and social media practitioners, leaders, and influencers to help you connect, close more deals, build stronger relationships with clients, and improve your sales productivity. I'm Mario Martinez Jr. You're now listening to Selling with Social. Tamara Schenk, I am very excited to have you on Selling with Social. It's been a long time trying to get you coordinated. You are a busy woman, my friend. Thank you for joining me on Selling with Social.
And you're a busy man. It seems to be.
Well, I know we tried a couple times. Yeah, you're welcome. I know we tried a couple times to get you on. And I remember the day I was supposed to have you on, I was up on stage and I said, I'm so sorry. We have to reschedule. So it's good. We got together. We are here. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Tamara Schenk with us. She is the research director from CSO Insights, the research division of the Miller Heiman Group. And I couldn't be more delighted to be having this conversation with you today, especially today's topic, which is about the 2017 Sales Enablement Optimization Study that was just released in October. Is that right?
Yeah, it's an open market asset since October 23rd, just before the Sales Enablement Society conference. And we launched it for our clients late in September.
Fantastic. So we're going to get some almost near hot off the press type of conversation.
Yeah.
Well, exciting. So before we get started, my friend, do me a favor and give us a little background about yourself, about Tamara.
Yeah, so you just introduced me with my current role. So I'm in an analyst role since 2014. And I am German. I live in Germany. And I had, many different sales, business development, and consulting roles in small companies and in bigger companies. In the last couple of years before I became an analyst, I had the pleasure to develop sales enablement from an idea to a program to a strategic function within T-Systems, the IT enterprise division of Deutsche Telekom. And since 2014, I'm in this role, CSO Insights.
So I like to think of you as, well, let's put it this way. You're one of us. You're part of the family. You're not just this research person who doesn't really understand what the practical experience of what sales and selling is all about. Is that a fair statement to make?
Yeah, that's a fair statement. Yeah, I know the painful journey enablement can be at times.
Very good.
Yeah.
And I always love asking my guests this question. It'll get your juices flowing. Tell us something about yourself that nobody would know by looking at your social profiles.
Okay, so if somebody doesn't know me, don't look at my profile, so you will probably not see that I'm a cat person. So I have to rescue cats at home.
Okay, a cat person. So I'm curious, when is the first cat meme coming on to LinkedIn then? We want to know who the real Tamara Schenk is, so you got to put a cat meme out there at one point, all right?
Maybe I should start with a Facebook profile for them.
I love it. But honestly, with your background and the expertise you have in the marketplace, I don't think people would be offended by that. I think people would actually be like, oh, it's so cute.
Yeah, it's so cute, exactly.
All right. Let's get down to some nitty-gritty business here. And we're talking about the 2017 Sales Enablement Optimization Study. First of all, why the heck was there a need for a sales enablement optimization study? Talk about that.
Yeah, so why we're doing this is for us pretty obvious because sales enablement is a very fast-growing movement. So in 2013, for instance, we had just 19% of our study participants who said, yes, we have an enablement person, initiative, or function, and it was 1/3 last year. And this year, it's 59%. So that's what we can call a fast-growing movement.
Yeah.
And with every social movement, if new people join a movement in a very short amount of time, there is actually more confusion than it was before when the movement was much smaller. And we're doing a CSO Insight study now the third year in a row. And we always focused on a bit of different focus on it. So this year, the specific focus was exactly clarity. So on top of the definition, we introduced this year for the first time an enablement clarity model. It shows different facets of enablement. And we just ask people, imagine enablement is a rough diamond in your organization. So can you cut and polish this diamond to make it effective in your organization?
Yeah, that makes sense. If you look at, wow, that's pretty staggering. So 2013, 19% of your respondents said that there was a sales enablement function. But in 2017, 59%. I mean, where that's like a significant growth within that particular model. And I think you're right. There does need to be some clarity around what is the role and the function of sales enablement. And oftentimes I do hear within organizations that sales operations and sales enablement are of the same function. But really, if you truly take a look back at the report that you guys have, as well as just functionally, what should they be? They really are two very different roles. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're absolutely right. It gets confused and mixed up very often. So sales operations is, in our perspective, that's a function that builds the sales system. So that's looking at policies, at methodologies, at technology, process, frameworks to set things up. So they actually provide platform for productivity, and enablement ideally is based on that, working with people to equip them in the right way to have more valuable conversations, interactions, whatever the nature of that interaction is, to create, more business depending on the sales strategy of the organization. So one discipline needs the other one. So ideally they collaborate closely, but in some organizations that's not the case. Even an operations function is more reduced to a reporting function, then enablement has to do a lot of that work as well, and the process improvement and implementation area. And if you have a very mature and strategic sales ops function, that's a pretty good way to make progress and to move the needle.
So tell me a little bit about, in this optimization study, I know there was a section inside there on one of my favorite topics, social selling.
Yeah.
Let's cut to the chase. Let's get to the meat here. This topic of social selling. Is it alive?
Yeah.
Is it real? Or should organizations be looking
real.
at this?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have since last year social selling as a part of our enablement optimization study, because we see it as a real need that social selling is an enablement service. So actually it is a sales enablement leader's responsibility to ensure that the sales team, actually all customer facing professionals and their managers, know the skills and learn the skills, and also have the necessary content available to them, to engage, to connect, and to listen to potential buyers. And what we seen, especially this year in the study, that again, a critical success factor is how well the social strategies of sales and marketing are aligned. So that was one of the critical success factors that really leads to performance or not.
Yeah. And why? Why is that so critical? Now, you obviously know that at Vengreso, we talk about the alignment of sales and marketing. And that's one of the reasons why we brought the content marketing division into our organization, because it was a huge gap, right? I mean, like a lot of trainers and or training organizations will teach how to have certain skills for social selling. But the big miss for us is you can't teach somebody social selling and how to engage with buyers until you've addressed whether or not there is valuable content available from the marketing organization that the salespeople can actually leverage to engage with valuable insights. Secondarily, we also believe, and that's why we have a personal branding practice, and we've scaled this up to the thousands of individuals, where we are literally going through and recreating the brand of the sales rep so that it's not the quote unquote quota crushing sales rep. It's not the best contract negotiator, but really what it is a brand that brings in, it's a mini microsite that brings in their buyer to see how they help and who they help, right? And at the final piece, right, you got the training piece, and then at the final piece is, now that you've made sure you've got the right type of content that maps to the buyer's journey, is teaching reps how to actually, and you said it best, is how to have the available content, but how to actually use it to distribute that content. So that's kind of the four models that the four pillars that we look at things in the world of social selling. Are we off? Or is that something similar in terms of what you guys are seeing in terms of the critical strategies for sales and marketing alignment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we really have to hammer that home that there has to be one perspective, and that's the customer's journey or the buyer's journey, as you said. We have to design things based on the customer's journey. So buyers, potential buyers, prospects, they have all different needs along the customer's journey, what they want, what they need, what they're interested in. And social selling, we have seen that in the past, if organizations just say, okay, it's just another piece of technology, people have to learn how to use it. I mean, it never worked. Look back at the CRM era when people were trained how to use a CRM system. It wasn't successful just to look at it from a tool perspective. So what we really see is that there is, and I think that's what you just pointed out, there has to be an integrative process along the customer's journey, and that is skills, there are tools, there are technologies, and there is content, there is messaging, and all this has to be aligned. And you just mentioned marketing content. I mean, there is content that comes from marketing. There is content that comes from our teams like product management, legal, operations. And when we come closer to the actual buying phase. And what we very often see is that value messaging that actually holds this all together or should do that, and that there is just a friction. So if the messaging you put out online is consistent, you would salespeople using their customer-facing content, and they have to reiterate and explain themselves again. So all of this really needs to be very consistent.
Yeah, I love what you said, that social selling is not just another piece of technology. Social selling is not another tool. And no knock against our friends at LinkedIn. We love them to death. They're our partner. They help fund our company, right? As a result of what they've done in the marketplace. But so many times a sales leader is talking to a sales rep for tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And they're buying the tool and saying that they're implementing a social selling program and they're getting the training. It's got to be more. It's a holistic mindset shift. Tell me if I'm wrong in terms of the optimization study. A mindset shift amongst the sales leaders and marketing organization, and maybe others who may be supporting cast members, right? It's a mindset shift on how to engage in a different way, as well as it's more than just the technology. It's about a skill set. And that skill set has to be honed in a way that you're teaching reps to engage on social as if they were, you and I were in person shaking each other's hand, right? At a networking event. I would never walk up to you and say, hey, Tamara, nice to meet you. I'm Mario Martinez, CEO and founder of Vengreso. By the way, it looks like you're in sales enablement, and I'd love to be able to set a 15-minute appointment with you to be able to talk about your business problems in the organization so that we can be able to help you solve those particular things. And here are the top 3 things that people are having a problem with. Right? I would never do that. Yet what we're seeing in the marketplace is the acquisition of a tool, and Jill Rowley says, "As a tool with a fool is still a fool," right? So the acquisition of a tool and thinking that that's the implementation of social selling. So what did this enablement study in the social selling section, what were some of the salient key points? If you were going to pick out 3 things that are key I'm sure there's many things inside the research study, but 3 things. Let's go through those 3 things and tell me, like, what were the 3 things that people should be listening to right now, listening to this podcast, saying I should or should not do based upon the research that you guys did? Whatever, 1 to 3. We'll get to 1 to 3.
Yeah. So the first thing is to really make sure that sales and marketing sit together and really align their social strategies. So there is a social strategy for marketing, how to digitally approach prospects, potential clients, there is branding involved. And then to see what is the sales force's, the sales leader's intention with social selling. That's one of the biggest things that has impact on performance, on adoption, and on performance indicators. So what we see in the data currently is that there are only 21% of organizations who have this situation that they have formally aligned their social strategies for marketing and sales. And those organizations see real performance impact. And I will come to that in a minute. We see that almost half of the organizations are in an informal state. That means they know from each other. They know what the other party is doing.
What was the percentage in the informal state?
47 to be correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, always, yeah. And no alignment, it's 31.8, 31.6 to be correct.
31 that have no program.
No alignment at all. And the interesting thing is we asked organizations or the participants of our study, so what are the benefits you see in social selling? Why are you doing this? What are you seeing as advantages? And for those who have no alignment at all, there is 1/3 of participants, they simply don't know why they're doing it. They don't see a benefit. They don't know why. And this is what we see. If you're in this alignment process, if you have the departments talking to each other, if they have to develop an aligned social strategy, how do we want to do this in the digital world, then they know what they are doing. And then their teams know what they are doing. So that's just a prerequisite that should be in place. And then we have seen that whenever you implement something, adoption is important to impact quota attainment. And so we have seen that with social selling, there is actually, with a smaller level of adoption, already an impact on quota attainment. So for instance, we had in this study an average quota attainment of 57%. So that's a bit better than what we usually see because of specific enablement audience. These guys are normally a bit better. And what we can see is that when the adoption is beyond 50% towards 75%, then we already see improvement that goes towards 61% of quota attainment. And it goes up to 70% quota attainment if we have an adoption rate bigger than 90%. And I mean, that's huge. And the last point would be on effectiveness of training. Yeah.
So let me just repeat what you said, because I think this is super important. You found that if a company had a 75% adoption rate of their sales organization utilizing social selling techniques to engage with their buyers, that the sales organization had a 61% quota attainment result. That's staggering, right? Like if you think about it, the old rule of 80-20, 20% of your sales force is producing 80% of your revenue and making quota, right? Like that blows that number out of out of the minimal results that a sales organization is actually achieving if they can drive adoption, which we're going to drill down to that because that's where I came from, right? I came as the practitioner where I drove 100% rep adoption out of the organization that I had launched. So I want to drill down on this, but that is a staggering number. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, when you're listening right now, as you're listening right now, if you take away any stat that Tamara just said, I mean, this is a powerful stat that if a sales leader can drive adoption. But that goes back to your point number 2, which said, you need to understand the sales leader's intention of social selling to understand how it's going to trigger results. Because if you're a sales leader that's just buying a tool, and you're not doing anything in terms of reinforced coaching, training, modeling, skill set, behavioral change, or even worst case, you're not engaging on social yourself, then the results are going to be, to your point number 3, you're not going to achieve the results, which is going to potentially increase your quota attainment. Is that correct? A fair inverse assessment?
Yeah. We have a whole section on sales coaching in the study. And also there is you always see year by year a significant impact. And also here with sales coaching, we need a formal approach. At least we need to have a coaching process. We need to develop sales managers on how to coach. Let's be honest, we're all not born as natural coaches. Probably not. Probably not all of us. So it is a skill that has to be learned and then it has to be implemented. And also sales managers, they need guides. What are the typical coaching questions in this selling scenario at this stage to understand that deal? And it's also not only about opportunity coaching. There is account coaching, there's funnel coaching, different areas. And if it comes to coaching on social selling, it's a lot about behavior. And especially when coaching matters most in the prospecting phase. So that's one of the critical success factors for all enablement services is the profound sales coaching approach. So we say sales coaching matters most to make these things work.
Well, and that's with anything, right? I mean, if you want to have the sales team succeed out in the marketplace, you got to have a great frontline leader. If you want to actually bring on great talent in an organization, you got to have a great frontline leader, right? like the frontline leader is and frontline, we're talking about sales manager, right? The frontline sales manager. Is so critical to the success of an organization, and their job is so hard. And I've sat in that role, and it's the least paid role in my opinion that has the most amount of work. To be quite honest with you, I mean,
who else has an impact on 6, 8, or 10 salespeople? directly as a frontline sales manager. If execution doesn't happen at the front line, it doesn't happen anywhere.
Yeah,
it's just not happening. Yeah.
Very good point. So the three that I took away: sales and marketing must sit together to define and or engage on a social strategy. So I want to touch on this one. Oftentimes when we're engaging with a particular client, what we're seeing is about 50-50. 50% is driven by the sales organization. The other 50% is driven by the marketing organization. And almost, more times than not, when engaged by the marketing organization, it's because someone on the sales side said, oh, we need to do social selling. That's social media. So we're going to go ask our social media director and or social media person to help us figure this out. The reality is that while that is important to have that social background, social media marketing strategies is not social selling. I mean, there's two different things in my opinion, but nonetheless, that alignment is very critical between sales and marketing. So touch on this for me, if you would. You said that it's critical to have them have a social strategy. We know the why. How do you do that? How do you create alignment between the two organizations? What should an organization do to create that alignment?
It's first of all changing perspectives. So very often in workshops or in client situations where there is still this pushing back between sales and marketing. So the sales leader says, I didn't want to have all these leads in my CRM system. And I said, but this is where your business coming from. So maybe it's just the mechanism is the right one at the moment. So, and then I'm always stepping back and say, do you really think that your prospects or customers are interested in how you define that lead? That has to be a seamless integration of marketing to sales service. So why don't you change the perspective and look at it from the customer's journey? So what are they doing? What are they interested in? What is it they need? And then honestly, you just have a lead in different stages. And that's what has to be defined. It's a marketing, it's a sales lead, and then all these people fight against each other. It's really what are the different stages and what is relevant for a prospect or the customer at this point. That's the one thing. And then what we see in enablement is we look at content services, training services, and at social selling as a specific one. And what we found is that value messaging is actually holding all these things together. So if the value messaging approach, if it just ends at the end of marketing because that was a macro messaging approach, that's something we put out there to reach a broad audience, which is marketing's purpose, that's totally fine. But a selling interaction is always a micro situation. I try to get in touch with one prospect, with one buyer role, or maybe with 4 or 5 or 6, whatever, but that's a micro situation. So we also have, and that's again, marketing, sales, and often product management have to sit together to develop such a value messaging approach to make sure that this is consistent in every single piece of content that's used. And then you see more traction, that things are moving forward. It's just not so many organizations are at this point. So also here, like social strategies, most of them will say, oh yeah, we know what the others are doing, but we are not even aligned on a value messaging level. So that's, in our experience, really important to focus on that to ensure consistency. And when all these things are in place, and then you look at the impact organizations can achieve if they have formally aligned social strategies, I mean, there is also huge impact on win rates. Yeah, they can achieve a 59% win rate compared to 51 on average. So I think these are all numbers sales leaders probably don't ignore.
Yeah. Absolutely. In front of us, I've got a piece of paper here that I'm looking at with Tamara. And I want to talk a little bit about to your point, Tamara, the alignment between sales and marketing. And for those of you this is obviously a podcast, you can't see what Tamara and I are seeing right now, but we've got in front of us an email. And Tamara, I've taken out the company names for obviously to keep a little bit of dignity for individuals, right? But I received this email and I'm going to read it to y'all who are listening in. And the subject line was 157 million impressions on Facebook. Now, the number 157 million impressions is what made me click. I thought, interesting. I wonder what they're talking about. I didn't really know, but it actually captured my attention, right? And so then it goes on to say, hi again, quote, again, Mario, how are you managing your social media post and tracking engagement? With, and it's a company name hidden, you can manage multiple social media accounts while efficiently generating measurable results at scale. Our solution was built to give you insights into social content proven to engage and in one simple dashboard. As an example, see how company name hidden drove massive impressions and engagement for Port City, Java. Can we help M3 Junior Growth Strategies LLC as well? Let's chat at a time that's convenient to you. Reply to this email or request a free demo today. And it came from the vice president of sales. Now, could this have been written by a salesperson? I don't know. What do you think? Possibly?
I don't know.
We don't know. But either way, sales or marketing. This is where we talk about the alignment, right? And I like to think of this as social selling is not just using social networks. Social is actually engaging. Social is really a subcategory of digital selling. And whether you're engaging on email, you're engaging, this, by the way, could have also very well been easily sent via LinkedIn messaging, right? LinkedIn messaging, Twitter messaging, social, email, doesn't really matter. Now, Tamara, I replied back to the VP of sales. This is the VP of sales. And by the way, you can see that this email was a mass marketing email because it says, don't want emails from this company name hidden? If so, unsubscribe here. So I sent back to the company, Chris, thanks. Suggestions. Number 1, have the reply set up so that when I actually hit reply, it actually goes to your email. Because when I hit reply, it went to reply@companynamehidden.com.
Oh, not good. Yeah.
Right? Rule 101. If you're going to send out a message, make sure they can get back to the individual sales rep. And so I wrote 7 different hashtags. Hashtag digital personalization is lacking. Number 2, if you're going to scrape my email, at least be connected to me on LinkedIn. Number 3, if you're using an email grabbing tool, at least make sure it's my current email. M3 Junior Growth Strategies was acquired and merged under Vengreso about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
that's only 6 months ago. I mean, I still get messages with our old company name. That's a year ago. I still get messages with my role 4 years ago when I was probably a potential buyer for companies in that space. But now I am an analyst. It takes not even a minute to find me on LinkedIn or Twitter and to see what my current role is. I'm always, it's interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
that the tools are not used.
Exactly right. And then I go back to the email subject line, and I'm going to tie this all together in terms of your sales and marketing alignment. But I go back to this email subject line, and the email subject line, as I said, was 157 million impressions. I wrote to the VP of sales and said, what the heck does this mean? And why did you put that on the subject line if, in fact, you don't talk about it in the body of your message?
Yeah.
And I wrote, the only way to understand how this subject line fits into the body is if you drive someone to click on one of your 3 CTAs. He had 3 different links inside here that you could click on. I said, hopefully they clicked on the second one like I did. And if they do, they scroll halfway down the page on that particular web page. Then they see the number of 157 million that they drove as a service offering with the platform to this particular client. And I wrote hashtag, right? And then here's the other one that's a kicker. And this is what the lack of personalization. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that people are not being successful when engaging through digital mediums. He wrote in his subject line, hi again, Mario. Well, wait a minute. Hi again? Have we spoken before?
Hi again, yeah.
We never even spoke before. And I wrote, don't mislead. Hashtag don't mislead, right? The 6th one, you should have at least the right company name if you're going to market to me. Hashtag know thy buyer, right? We just talked about this. And lastly, number 7, I have no incentive and or did not see any value that would drive me to book a meeting with you. Hashtag bring value to your buyer. Yeah. Now I want to come full circle. What's your analysis of this in terms of sales and marketing alignment?
It's interesting. So I have having 2 blog posts in the last couple of weeks, especially on this topic, and by receiving mass emails that should sound personalized, but they are not, for exactly the reasons you just listed in this one. So for me, it's always, there are 3 things. It has to be valuable, relevant, and differentiating. So, if I address you in your role as the CEO of Vengreso, it would be the right company name. Then it has to be relevant and valuable for you and your role and for the role in your old company. And you probably also get a lot of emails that are simply pushing products after the first line that should sound personalized. Yeah, and at the end of the day, you would say, so this is not relevant to me. And if it's not relevant to you, if the value that's probably in there isn't relevant to you, you just don't answer on it.
Yeah.
And I think also see there are a lot of misunderstanding in frontline sales management, because I still see so many practices to measure the number of activities instead to coach the quality of the behaviors. 10 emails that are well targeted and personalized are much more relevant than 50 that are not. And what's very often not seen from a sales or marketing perspective, the damage is bigger than just creating a lead. The damage is much bigger on the brand.
On the brand for both the individual as well as the company. Right. And I'll tell you the closing to that story. So I sent that back to the VP of sales, and I know that the VP of sales sent it to the VP of marketing because the VP of marketing for that particular company, for that social media tool, looked at my LinkedIn profile. And I reached out and connected with the VP of marketing, and I wrote a customized message that said, "Hey, Billy," that I don't want to say the guy's name. "Hey, Billy, you probably may have looked at my profile as a result of the message I sent back to Chris. I'm happy to be able to spend some time with you to give you some feedback on why the message didn't work. Nonetheless, I'd love to have you in my network." So he connected with me, but he never actually responded to the LinkedIn message. Now, here's the kicker. 2 days later, a sales rep calls me and he says, "Hey, Mario, I was reaching out to you because I noticed that you were clicking on our website. And I wanted to reach out and talk about how the company can help you with being able to reach more of your targeted audience." And I said, "Oh, I know the company. In fact, I sent an email to your VP of sales who never responded to it. And your VP of marketing just recently connected with me who also never responded to me either." And he asked a brilliant question. This is the question he asked. It was brilliant. He says, "I'm so sorry that happened." So he acknowledged and he listened. And then he says, "Do you think that soured a relationship so that we can't work together right now? Or can we move past that and I can see if I can help you?" And I thought, well, that was a brilliant question, right? And I said, "That's a really great question. Of course we can move past that because I'm the type of guy that if you can learn from it, then let's help each other. What do you have and how can you help me?" And he said, then he went on to do a product pitch. That's where we failed at. And after that product pitch, I said, "Do you know which company I work for?" And this is what he said. "Well, yeah, I'm on your Vengreso site right now." And I said, "Okay, what do we do?" He goes, "Well," and he read off page 1, right underneath the Vengreso. "Well, you do content marketing, social selling training, coaching. You do social media strategy, keynote speaking." He just read the 8 products. So I very lovingly, in a very coaching way, said, "I don't know if this is working, right? You're all on the wrong foot right now." And I explained to him, why it was wrong. And I started going through this is the challenge I see. If you want to market to me, right? We are a digital sales transformation company and we possibly have my opportunity, but you need to know what my business problems are. You need to research and you need to make more demands on your marketing team. And I'm happy to help you with that. And so the response was, "Well, I can see that we're wasting both of each other's time." Nonetheless, the VP of marketing ended up disconnecting from me on LinkedIn, which is, so be it. But this point you mentioned, and by the way, for those of you listening, I'll put a link back into this particular post of the email that I read. Actually, I shared it on social and it's got some great traction on it so far on social. But the sales and marketing alignment is so important. If you're going to engage in digital format, marketing has got to be helping the sales teams to have the right messaging that maps to the value proposition of the buyer, right? And sales has a duty and a responsibility, for God's sakes, digital personalization. As Tamara said, it's not hard. It's not hard. All the data is almost always there. So I totally digress on that point. I hope that was okay, Tamara. You can see I'm very passionate about that particular subject. The other one was sales leaders' intentions. Talk to me about why this is so important. I talked about it earlier, why I think it's so important and why it can make or break a program. Why is the intentions so important?
Yeah, it's the intention and the goals and the business goals and challenges of the sales leaders. So we see that overall in sales enablement. So what's really needed is a senior executive sponsor for your overall enablement program. So what we see, if there is a formalized approach, if the business strategy has been mapped to the sales strategy, we really made an analysis where the strengths, the weaknesses, and the gaps are, so that we could really scope enablement for this specific organization at this point in time. So this is what we need to move the needle. Then it should normally end up in a formal charter that has been approved by the different stakeholders. So it's sales, it's marketing, it's product, HR, it's L&D, it's operations. And so then we can move forward in having an impactful function and discipline going on. So that's one point, especially with social selling. What we see very often from a sales leader's perspective, it is perceived as just another thing like a CRM. And we've all learned about the mistakes many organizations have made in looking at a CRM as an IT program, as a tool. And I mean, there is no such such thing as an IT program. It's always a business program. We don't change IT for IT's sake. We want to achieve better results. And so it is really important that they understand, okay, we are doing this social selling thing. It means there are skills that have to be learned. I should have integrated all these steps in my methodology, in my workflow, and my processes. Ideally, it's integrated on one platform so that people can work integrated in their CRM. I should make sure that the content is aligned and all these things, and the messaging is aligned, as you said, that there is macro messaging that's consistent with the micro messaging, all these things. So that is what sales leaders should articulate and communicate in the organization. And this is an integrated approach, and it's not just an add-on. It's another channel that it has its own rules and its own specifics. And I still have to find out what is the right channel to engage with this prospect or with that one.
We came out with an infographic, Tamara. I'm not sure if you saw that, but the infographic was the different ways, the old school way of selling and the new school way of selling. And the old school way had several different channels: cold call, an email, attend a networking event, knocking on doors, right? And the new way had all the old school ways, right, included inside there. But then add on top of that now video, add on top of that text, add on top of that social networks, add on top of that online prospecting type of formats and forums, webinars, like all these different mediums by which we engage with. And agree with me or not on this one, I believe that the role of the salesperson has gotten in the last 2 years so much more complicated because we are now having to track, well, if I'm going to sell to Tamara, she likes to engage through video messaging. But if I'm going to sell to Bobby, he likes to engage through the old school phone methodology. But Susie likes to engage through only email. And Johnny only wants to be able to engage through, live face-to-face meetings. Like, we're having to track now the ways that our buyers are wanting to engage. And it's no longer a one-prong approach to prospecting and building relationships. It's an omni-channel approach. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that made the role more complicated. And also, people have to tune into their buyers. So first of all, where do I find them? I don't find everybody on LinkedIn, especially not in different regions in the world. And so be where your prospects and buyers, and then their preferences also change along their customer's journey. If I maybe only want to engage via email early on, and then when it becomes more specific and I really move to making a buying decision, maybe I want to have a physical meeting or a web meeting or a phone call or whatever. So all of these things are changing.
Yeah. This topic of sales leaders' intentions to be able to drive and trigger results, to quote your words, what you said, is so critical. And that was actually the reason why I was asked to speak at LinkedIn Sales Connect when I sat in the seat as the VP of sales, is because up until that point, and I don't know about now, but up until that point in the 2.5 years of LinkedIn's history of using Selling Sales Navigator, we were the first and only company that ever was able to claim 100% rep adoption, with 100% of our reps attributing at least one sales opportunity. And it was because I was assigned as the executive sponsor to roll that out globally and domestically. And I mean, it was like my second full-time job, right? But we had results. We developed in the pipeline $4.5 million in open pipeline, with 100% of the reps having an open one, or in some cases a closed lost or a closed one deal into the pipeline. And the sales leader getting behind it. And I think the challenge is we have a lot of sales leaders who are my age, 40 and older, right? They're the VP of sales. They didn't grow up selling this way, so they don't understand it. And as a result of not understanding it, they kick it over the fence and say, oh, that's social media's job, right? But in reality, no sales reps very rarely listen to a social media person who's never even carried a bag, right? You got to have carried a bag to be able to help them understand how to engage. So that's a critical one. I loved the 3 topics we talked about. So the 3 things, first off, the link available to the 2017 Sales Enablement Optimization Study from CSO will be available in this podcast in the show notes. So we'll make sure you guys have a copy of that so you can get access to this. But in closure, we talked about 3 salient points. Social selling is obviously not dead. The one that we talked about was sales and marketing must be aligned to be able to help develop a social strategy. That's what you said, Tamara. And you have to sit together. And we showed an example of how poorly marketing and sales, when not aligned, how bad that might look, or how sales is not challenging marketing to be better. The second one is as sales leaders' intentions and understanding that in order to be able to trigger results or drive results. And that you've got to be engaged. You've got to be leading from the front. You've got to have coaching going on for your sales managers so they in turn know how to actually coach to understand how to drive results. And the last one and the most important one, in my opinion, out of the three that you just mentioned, is something that is the kind of the slap in the face, right? The wake-up call. That adoption is important to impact quota attainment. And what you said is that the companies who had a 75% adoption of their sales organization leveraging social selling, that this study showed 61% of the sales reps achieved quota. Like, if you're not getting the idea that social selling is here and is not going away, I don't know how else you could probably figure that out from a research company who, by the way, is not supporting or endorsing Vengreso or any other training company. It is independent research. I love it. Tamara, that was a fabulous discussion. If people want to get a hold of you, they want to connect with you, they want to learn more about who you are or CSO, what's the best way for them to reach out? Is it a tweet? Is it LinkedIn? Is it an email? You tell us.
LinkedIn messaging is always fine. Twitter messages as well. So people can directly go to csoinsights.com and check out our blog, can subscribe to it, can see how you become a research member. You're welcome. We have not only open market, but also research member content and even more data behind the doors. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn. Just look for my name. You'll find me immediately. And my Twitter hashtag is just Tamara Schenk. It's as simple as that.
And we will put a link into your LinkedIn profile. But do us a favor, spell out your Twitter handle for everybody listening.
@Tamara Schenk. TAMARASCHENK.
Beautiful. And my last and final question for you, my friend, is your all-time favorite movie. What is it? Tell us something. What is your all-time favorite movie?
Oh my goodness, that's really a difficult question. I just made a gut decision and said,
The Untouchables.
It is a French movie. It shows the story between a very rich but disabled man, and he gets a very different person to take care of him. He's a black guy. He's coming from the streets, and he's totally blown away by all the beauty and the richness of his new environment. And so they come from so very different worlds, and they really become best friends and help each other in their different life challenges. So it's really a beautiful movie to watch.
Well, I will have the team research that, put it into the show notes. It looks like I've got another movie to find on Netflix. Tamara, I've had such a wonderful time talking to you, my friend. Thank you for joining me on Selling with Social.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, take care. Thanks so much for joining me on that episode of Selling with Social. I hope you found as much value in that episode as I did. Here's what I want you to do next. Please go to www.vengreso.com. That's VENGRESO.com. VENGRESO.com. And make sure that you get access to our content. We've got the latest and greatest in digital sales, sales training, content marketing, and social selling strategies that are going to help you grow your sales pipeline. I look forward to having you on the next show of Selling with Social. Make sure you also go to vengreso.com/podcast to be able to get access to the latest and greatest Selling with Social episodes, along with any of the other episodes that we've got from Social Business Engines with my friend and partner, Bernie Borges, along with Conversations with Phil with my friend and partner, Phil Gerbishak. Thanks again for joining on Selling with Social.